The objective of this lesson is to divide a whole number by a decimal. Seth's mom baked 3 shortcakes for a family dinner. She would like each person to have 2/10 of a cake. How many people can she serve? We have 3 shortcakes divided into 2/10 for each person. We will use 3 hundredths grids because there are 3 holes in our division problem. Each grid represents 1 whole or 1 shortcake. We will then start by shading 2/10 of the hundredths grid, or 2 columns, to show that is the size each person gets of the shortcake. We will continue shading 2/10 in different colors until all of the hundreds have been shaded in. We will count up the number of 2/10 to find there are 15 people that can be served. Now let's look at the original problem written a different way. Notice on these 2 problems all the parts are the same, just in a different layout. We have the quotient 15, the dividend 3, and the divisor 2/10. Looking at the equation without the quotient, we can read and write it out differently to remove the decimal point. We can reason that 0.2 can be thought of as 2/10. We can also say that 3 can be thought of as 30/10. We can write it as 3 divided by 0.2 is the same as 30/10 divided by 2/10, or 30 divided by 2. We took the division problem from a whole number divided by tenths to tenths divided by tenths, thus allowing us to move the decimal. So we had a final quotient of 15. There are 15 groups of 2/10 in 3 whole shortcakes. Let's explore another problem using the same process. Mrs. Hernandez has 2 gardens to plant vegetables. She wants to use 25 hundredths of each garden for each type of vegetable. How many types of vegetables can she plant? We have 2 gardens divided into 25 hundredths for each vegetable. We will need 2 hundredths grids to represent the 2 whole gardens. We will need to color in 2 columns and 5 individual squares on the next column to represent the 25 hundredths. We will continue shading 25 hundredths in different colors until we have filled our 2 holes. As we count up our 25 hundredths, we see that we can have 8 different kinds of vegetables, or 8 groups. Now let's write our equation another way. We will have our 2 gardens as the dividend, and the 25 hundredths as our divisor, and 8 as our quotient. We will erase our quotient and look at the division problem. We can read this as 2 wholes divided into 25 hundredths, or we can think of both the dividend and the divisor in terms of hundredths. We know 2 wholes is the same as 200 hundredths. So let's rewrite the problem in terms of hundredths. This new problem now reads 200 hundredths divided by 25 hundredths. There is no longer a decimal to contend with. Now we can solve, and we will have an answer of 8 groups of 25 hundredths in 200 hundredths, or 2 wholes, meaning we can have 8 types of vegetables in our 2 gardens. The objective of this lesson was to divide a whole number by a decimal, and we met this objective by using the hundred grid to visually divide whole numbers by decimals. We also explored how, thinking of whole numbers in terms of decimals, we can move our decimal point to make a simpler division problem.